Welcome to Checks and Balances. I'm Michael Vincent. This is James Blair. And this week, what do you do when you bought your first home? It's the financial plan when you've made that first step to get on the property ladder.
So let me paint a picture for you. Mike goes to me, James, I've got some new first home buyers. They have no life insurance. They have no income protection. Can you please have a chat with them? And I said, no worries, like always, Mike. Happy to steer the way through the boring and confusing world, which is life insurance. So I'm having a chat with them, talking about their insurance. And they go, insurance is great, James. That all sounds good. On the financial planning side, we don't really need a financial plan just yet because we've just bought our first home. But can you give us a kind of rundown of what we do? And I said, no problem. You do bang, 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 split it up, then do this, financial freedom, off you go. And they're like, wow, that is inspirational. That sounds great. Can you send us a resource? So this is that resource. We're filming it. I'm going to send you the link to YouTube so you can watch it. While you're watching it, make sure to hit subscribe at the same time. But that's pretty much where the idea came from. So if you've got any other ideas along those lines of, hey, could you build us a resource for this? Let us know. We'll do a podcast.
Cool.
So Mike, do you want to give us the assumptions? So we've got a scenario that we're going to run through with this situation, apply it to your own situation as you will. So they've just got on the property ladder. What does their situation look like?
Yeah, these aren't actually assumptions. This is their situation.
Yeah.
So cool. So you and your partner are both 30.
Sorry, I'm just going to stop you there. We got to give them aliases, new names. What do you want to go with?
Let's go Dan and Jen.
Okay, sounds good.
Cool. So you and your partner are both 30. Dan and Jen, you earn a joint household income of $200K. Your incomes are going to increase to $300,000 jointly by the time you're 35. Congratulations, guys. You just got a pay rise.
Making bank.
You bought $1 million house with a $100K deposit, $900,000 mortgage, and you both used all of your Kiwi savers for the deposit.
Yeah, so we've drained it all. We've put it all into the property. You might go, that sounds like a 10% deposit, not a 20% deposit. 10% deposit's completely doable.
Yep.
So the question becomes, what is next? You've got your house. That's where a lot of people get to. They dream of getting onto the property ladder and they just kind of grind through life, work it out, try and have some fun along the way. So we've got steps in terms of the structure you could create going first in terms of going forward. The next one is what we call the basics, step one. So joint account for the budget, setting up the related costs, making sure the one-off costs are treated with your pay. So for example, if you're, I'm going to get confused with these numbers. If your bills, your rates are $2,400 a year, you should be paying $200 a month so you don't get stung with a big bill at the end. Yeah. So setting up the right bank accounts, working out your fixed costs, planning for the mortgage, setting up all the structure, getting a will. Well, what would you reckon? Half of people, if we're lucky, have a will?
Oh, if you're lucky.
Yeah. So many people don't have a will. You've got a big asset. Make sure you're sorted there. Same time, get the insurance sorted because you don't want to leave your spouse, your partner, or if you have kids with this huge mortgage they can't support if you got sick or if you passed away. So they're the basics. Mike, what's step two?
Yeah, so step two, work out a budget and implement the budget. You know, money isn't a magical thing. It's not all just going to work itself out and you'll have, achieve all your goals in the future. You've got to put some work into this to make sure you are going to hit those milestone guys. So, I'm not saying this has to be all consuming, an hour a day, every day on your budget. You've just got to get it set, get it accurate and stick to it. So, in this scenario, we've assumed that they're going to spend $6K per month outside of the mortgage and that the mortgage is going to be around another $6,000 as well. You can use Excel, Pocketsmith, whatever you want. Obviously have the financial plan, but you've just got to get it done. We've talked about this a number of times. Set up the accounts, the mason jars, whatever you call it. Make sure it's automated. It hits those different jars or those different bank accounts. And then that way, it's 10 minutes a week to manage your money. So one of the most important steps here, get the budget right and stick to it.
And the psychology behind it, you go, I've got this huge $900,000 mortgage. What's the big deal if I go out for another dinner a week? It's those small, consistent steps over time that really add up. So getting that budget and setting it up is super important. Step three is KiwiSaver. So if you've done your KiwiSaver right with your first home, you probably have had your KiwiSaver in cash, because it does not go well when people don't do that properly, does it?
Yeah, no.
So you've had your KiwiSaver in cash for a while. You now want to reassess, look at your risk profile. You might be a balanced, a growth, and aggressive KiwiSaver. Might be right for you. Makes a big difference over the long term. You probably, if you had a higher contribution to KiwiSaver because you were trying to save for your first home, you probably want to pull it back in most situations, not all, but a lot of situations, back to 3%.
Yep.
So you can focus on paying down debt. Pick a good provider. And that is the end of step 3. So we've done the basics, the budget, and the KiwiSaver. What happens next, Mike?
You do nothing.
Nothing. How good does that sound?
You wait.
By nothing, we mean you be consistent and keep doing the same thing. But it's the small, consistent steps thing. Hey, everybody wants to get rich quick. Nobody wants to do the hard yakka.
Yeah. So look, after you've done that, you really sit back, be consistent with your budgeting, wait a little bit to pay down some debt, build up some equity in the home. After 5 years, that's when you pull the trigger on the next thing, and that is buying the investment property. So in this scenario, we're going to assume $1 million with a 4.5% rental yield, and it is going to be on interest only. So what that means is that you aren't paying any principal down on this mortgage. You are just paying the interest cost on it. In this scenario, you're going to have investment property debt and you're going to have owner-occupied debt. You should always be trying to pay down the owner-occupied debt first. So definitely focus on that as opposed to the investment property debt.
And why do you do that?
The investment property debt, if you're buying a new build, is interest deductible. There are other scenarios where it is as well, like renting to KO. But yeah, look, that is good debt. That is a debt which is going to help you grow your financial future. That debt on the owner-occupied property is lazy debt. We don't want that hanging around.
Yeah. And then for those who are maybe early in their kind of financial literacy, educating them, maybe they're new to the podcast and they're going, hold up, Mike, I've already got a bunch of debt. Why on earth are you giving me more debt? Why would I buy an investment property?
Yeah, cool. So the main advantages of an investment property really is, the leverage and then a bit around the tax treatment of that as well. The leverage component is the key here, right? So in this scenario, I'm not putting any cash down. I'm 100% debt financing the property. So if the property costs $1 million, the bank's giving me $1 million. If it costs $800,000, the bank is giving me $800,000. I'm not putting any of my own cash into this. You're taking that and you are getting the returns on the $800,000 property value, the $1 million property value. Let's say I was chipping in $100,000 and I put that in a high yield savings account, which doesn't exist, and I'm getting 5% per year. Yep. That's not a bad sort of return. I don't know where you're going to get that, but let's say I took that $100,000, put it into property and turned it into $1 million asset and earned that same 5% per year. I'm getting 5% on a $1 million asset, not a $100,000 asset. So leverage is the key here.
Yeah. So if we go down the track in 10 or 15 years, that $1 million house is going to be worth $2 million hypothetically. The value of your own home that you live in does not matter because you got to pitch a tent and live on the street if you're going to sell it. Yeah. But you can sell that investment property in the future and take the cash.
Yeah.
A couple of side points I want to tackle just at this stage of life where a couple of people get lost is the first thing around property. So you've got to make sure at 6% interest rates and even going higher that you can service the debt. We are fixing problems that are very hard at the moment, goes against our core belief where some people have to sell assets just because the cash flow, they are getting killed at the moment.
Yeah.
The second one is the Sharesies accounts and going, I'm going to diversify a bit. I'm going to, leverage up, pick some stocks, have a good time. Does not work.
Yeah.
The reason it doesn't work is if you are a wizard and are making 10% on your Sharesies portfolio and your mortgage rate is at 6%. You will have heard me say this 100 times. I'm going to say it 100 more times. You take off tax, fees, and then inflation. If you're lucky, you are at 3 or 4%.
Yeah.
The mortgage rate's at 6%. You are better off just focusing on paying off the mortgage. It is not sexy, but mathematically it's the right thing to do.
People must be like, these guys hate Sharesies. Why do they keep banging on about it? We don't hate Sharesies. We don't hate people getting involved in their finances It just doesn't work.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, it's a great tool. It's improving financial education, literacy, all of those things.
Yeah.
So anyway, Mike, we've bought the investment property. We've bought our own home 5 years ago.
Yeah.
What do we do next?
We do nothing.
Nothing. There's a lot of sitting around here.
Yeah, absolutely. So from here, again, we're going to do nothing for another 5 years. James, where am I after this point?
So I'm now 40. I'm a silver fox. Hopefully I've still got some hair at 40. Your mortgage has dropped from what it was at $900,000 to $360,000. How? Well, when you got those big pay rises and you got those promotions, you managed your lifestyle creep and paid more and more on the mortgage. So you've got a lot of equity in your home. There's certainly an argument for a second investment property. We haven't done that in this scenario.
Keeping it simple.
Yeah, keeping it nice and simple. Your house has increased from $1 million to $1.7 million. Does it really matter? Nah, because you're living in it. Your Kiwi savers are now $95,000 each, and there's $200,000 of equity in that investment property you've bought.
Yep.
So then what do we do, Mike?
Nothing.
Nothing again.
We wait.
We sit around, maybe pop over for a trip to, where are we going on our holidays?
Let's go to Mexico.
Mexico. Fit in really well with the mo over there. A little Corona on the beach.
Yeah, cool.
Then we get to 50, Mike. Where are we at 50?
So at 50, we have paid off our mortgage. At 44, our house is worth $3 million, $250K each in your Kiwi savers. You have $1.2 million of equity in that investment property. You've had it for 15 years. You've got $450,000 in your managed funds. You are in a significantly better position at 50 than you would have been had you not implemented any sort of financial plan. And remember, we're not, this isn't an earth-shattering, absolute risk-on financial plan. Like you said, there's a lot of waiting here.
Yeah, it's a pretty basic plan. So by 50, your net financial position is $5.1 million, which includes the value of your home being $3 million. 100% you need to take into consideration inflation when it comes into this plan as well. So that's pretty much your plan. By 50, you are $2 million net of assets, very close to financial freedom, having a passive income of maybe say $80,000 a year, the option to work part-time, because I don't even really like the term retirement because you get older a lot faster if you don't stay sharp, but maybe you go and do some other things. So in terms of some important points here, so one is inflation. While $5 million is a big number, you really need to be considering whether that works. Mike, what else have we got in terms of important considerations?
Yeah, so some of the other things we haven't really taken into account here, because just remember, this is not personalized financial advice. This is just general information. Because we are outlining a financial plan, is we haven't taken into account any life events. So upgrading the house, kids, time off, work, divorce, all of those sorts of things that need to be factored into an actual financial plan so that it is accurate and will get you to where you want to go.
Cool. We've also assumed 5 to 6% capital gains increases on property.
Yep.
And as I said before, got to be super careful of the cash flows on those investment properties, especially right now. One of my favorite phrases, I'm not getting enjoyment, it's just a bonkers statement.
Yeah.
Interest rates have tripled in the past 12 months. You've got to make sure you can service that cash flow.
Yeah. So that is what a basic financial plan will look like for some people. Well, they are real people, but who have just purchased their first house and are wondering, do I need a financial plan? What should I do? How do I get ahead from here?
Can you build me a resource? Here is your free resource on what you do next. Once again, not personalized advice. Make sure to have a chat one-on-one if you would like. Thank you very much for joining us. Please make sure to subscribe, give us a review, and we will catch you next week.
Cheers.